Music has that ability to take you back to a place and time that was the soundtrack to your life.
Music is one of those things that enables us as human beings actually to have a life of memory.
I'm a soul man.
To this day, Soul Man is one of my favorite songs.
Music plays a prominent role in our everyday lives. We use music for recreation, distraction, or to enhance our mood. But music also has a psychological and neurological impact on people of all ages. In this edition of Tennessee Matters, we explore musical memories and how they help shape your own autobiography.
Funny how melody sounds like a memory.
Middle Tennessee State University Recording Industry Associate Professor Amy Macy discusses the power of hearing a song from your past and how it takes you back to that moment.
If you're re-listening to it again, if it's a week later, a year later, 10 years later, that musical soundtrack can bring you back to that moment. It's sort of a taste or a smell can do the same thing, like a perfume, but it's the musical equivalent to that.
Macy likens music to art.
Think about what music does for you. No other piece of art. Do you look at a piece of art and can it throw you back someplace and give you that same transport, to take you back somewhere that gives you such a warm and fuzzy feeling?
The age between 15 to 24 really defines your taste in music. Belmont University music professor and music industry historian Don Cusick says it is at that age that you connect with music.
If it's in that 15 to 22, 24 period, it's a coming of age moment where you are picking what you like instead of what mom and dad like.
Cusick says there are two purposes of music. One is to calm you down. Another is to fire you up, which especially happens when kids leave the classroom.
So when they get out of school, they just want to bang their head against the wall. And so if you look at the music when these people were coming of age, there's Elvis, there's the Beatles, baby boomers, or even fast forward to that period of NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, and Britney Spears, when that Generation Y was coming of age, the millennials were coming of age, high energy stuff.
Another noted music historian is Dr. Dale Cockrell, who directs the Center for Popular Music at Middle Tennessee State University.
All of us have had the experience of hearing a song that we knew when we were 14 years old, and we knew who we were in love with as a 14-year-old. We knew what we were eating, what kind of cars we adored, and so forth and so on.
Memories pressed between the pages of my mind.
We all have fond memories of music, even though the type of music has changed from one generation to the next. As we age, we often have a conversion experience when we transition from pop favorites from our teen years to our 30s when we no longer relate to the pop music of today. Belmont's Don Cusick says this conversion experience has created a demand for oldies music. He uses the example of rock music around the time of 1970.
And those people who might not have liked Led Zeppelin and what was going on, I don't like Led Zeppelin. That's not rock and roll. Give me Elvis, give me Buddy Holly, give me Bebop-A-Lula. And so that's how that's the first oldie station was created.
Music memories are made because when we hear songs and topics for the first time, these have the most lasting impressions, as in this example of a song during the Vietnam War. Dr. Mark Crawford, Associate Professor and Coordinator of Commercial Music at Tennessee State University, uses the example of 1960s music, depicting times of political, racial, and global unrest.
People also forget that the moon landing was in the 60s, and so there was a real dichotomy just in the 60s. And other events, certainly 9/11, all have very ingrained memories for those generations.
On a lighter note, Macy, Cockrell, and Cusick step out of their roles as experts and offer their own personal observations of musical memories.
Now, I remember it as a very young kid. I couldn't have been more than maybe 7 or 8 at the most. And going to the ice cream store with my cousin in Dallas, Texas. Love will keep us together. And we were singing it at the top of our lungs because it was just the biggest song.
Oh, I was 17 years old when the Beatles hit.
I wanna hold your hand.
And I remember I Want to Hold Your Hand, and I remember whose hand I wanted to hold. And I remember what school she went to, and I remember she was blonde, and I remember what kind of car. I remember my best friend. I remember it was springtime. You know, once you start doing this, you can start building a whole life out of this.
The first Beatles album certainly transports me to a rainy day in, I think, March. And then we went down to the drugstore, and that's where they sold the albums, and a little bin of, and I bought the Beatles, Meet the Beatles album.
She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves
And brought that home and just played the fire out of it.
Musical memories infiltrate our lives even in television, as depicted in ABC's medical drama Body of Proof, when actress Dana Delaney's character chats with fellow actress Jerry Ryan, recalling an Elton John song.
On the way over here, Rocket Man was playing on the radio.
Rocket Man, burning out his fuse out every home.
It's a good song. Couldn't listen to it for years. Why not? It was playing on my father's car radio the day that he drove my mother and me into New York City. It was a great trip. I was really happy. It's the last time we were together as a family. Next week, my father was dead. And every time I hear that song on the radio, I am 12 years old again, and man, it still hurts. It's funny how the brain works, right? Yeah. But you know, I would never want to forget that pain. It makes me who I am, you know?
Because of the power of music, many scientists have studied its impact. MTSU's Dale Cockrell says one of the things that happens in the making of memories is that it often takes some kind of sensory cue.
Music is interesting neurologically because it's one of the few human experiences that integrates parts of the brain. I mean, generally, language is located in a particular part, motion is located in a particular part, but whenever they put functional MRIs on brains and play music, one of the things that's unique about it is it lights up the brain all over, so it's an integrative experience.
Cockrell adds, similar things seem to be happening with memories, that when we hear music, it enables us to connect parts of the brain that are not typically connected very well, and therefore memories follow from that.
Like a rhinestone cowboy.
What they diagnosed me as?
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's.
Musician Glenn Campbell's recent disclosure from this clip on CNN brings to light it is those types of memories and connections that have prompted music to be used with Alzheimer's patients. Dr. Oliver Sacks, a clinical professor of neurology at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, went on National Public Radio, discussed the use of music therapy with Alzheimer's patients.
Although they'd lost the powers of thought and language, might recognize music, might sing along, might suddenly become lucid when they were exposed to music.
The way music is consumed today has changed the music business, but MTSU professor Amy Macy says music is used differently by various generations.
When we were to buy vinyl, it was a very big deal. We would take it home and take off the plastic and pull it out. And I can remember, and I know this sounds maybe odd, I would smell the vinyl. I would pull it out and there was just a very unique smell. Even that tangible, very tactile exchange when that happened. But again, I'm cut of a different cloth, but I know I'm not alone.
Macy wonders about today's music because the shelf life is so short.
I think it'll be very interesting now that we are in a cherry-pick society where if we like a song, we'll go hunt it up on iTunes and download it. We're not listening to music as it was recorded now. We're no longer looking at the body of the work. It'll be very interesting to see in 10, 20 years how timeless the pop music is of today as, say, the music of 20 years ago.
TSU's Mark Crawford says the music industry is struggling due to consumers having so many choices without enough quality choices.
So you have more releases, but less and less sales. How do you count digital sales, even how artists are paid now? Obviously, folks will have memories. They're just going to be different.
The music memories we have will last a lifetime and provide an historic context for new generations. An example of this? Ask an older generation about the plane crash involving musicians Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper, and most know the tragedy was memorialized by singer Don McLean.
Singing, this'll be the day that I die.
Music can serve to keep the memories alive, like this Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young song, which became an anthem for a generation angered by the Vietnam War and what had happened at Kent State University.
This summer I hear the drumming for dead in Ohio.
Music reflects and creates social conditions. Our library of melodies houses our musical memories, creating the soundtrack to our lives. For Tennessee Matters, I'm Terry Likes.